مرحبا بكم جميعا في مكتبة الإسكندرية. Welcome all to the Library of Alexandria. Welcome to BioVision Alexandria 2008. Welcome to this inaugural session. And for all our visitors, we hope that this particular BioVision, which is coinciding with the completion of 5 years of the life of the library, will be a celebration in science, rationality, dialogue, and the values for which the library stands. And we are proud of our young people who manage this place and who staff it. The average age is 29 going on 30. We, barring security and custodial services, we have over 50% of our staff are ladies. And out of 1,900 staff, old people like me who are over 55, we have only 50. So it's a young and youthful organization that is dedicated to recapture the spirit of the ancient library. And here is a little something about what we did in the last 5 years, and we certainly hope that you will take the time, all our visitors, to visit the library and its facilities sometime during your stay. So the Library of Alexandria, old and new.
2,300 years ago, on this very spot, selected by Alexander and built by the Ptolemies, the Pharos of Alexandria dazzled the world, while the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, the ancient library of Alexandria, nurtured the greatest adventure of the human intellect. Part academy, part research center, and part library. The great thinkers of the age, scientists, mathematicians, poets from all civilizations came to study and exchange ideas. Universal knowledge was organized, unbounded inquiry was encouraged, and intercultural dialogue was nurtured. The library completely disappeared over 1,600 years ago, but it continued to inspire scientists and scholars everywhere. From Aswan in 1990 where world leaders joined Egypt in declaring their commitment to turn the dream to reality.
أنتم تشاركون في إحياء مكتبة الإسكندرية، تقيمون شاهدا جديدا على هذا الوعي وهذا التحضر، وتضيفون فضلا إلى فضل وجميلا إلى جميل، الأمر الذي تستحقون عليه كل شكر وتقدير.
أنا المصري كريم العنصر، بنيت المجد بين الإهرامين.
تحية صادقة لهذا الصرح التاريخي الشامخ وللدور المحوري الذي سيلعبه في إثراء وتعميق تجربتنا الإنسانية.
The Bibliotheca Alexandrina, the new library of Alexandria, its mission is to be a center of excellence for the production and dissemination of knowledge, and to be a place of dialogue and understanding between cultures and people. Specifically, the new institution aspires to be the world's window on Egypt, Egypt's window on the world, a leading institution of the digital age, and above all, a center for learning, tolerance, dialogue and understanding. To fulfill that role, the new complex is much more than a library. It contains a library that can hold millions of books, 6 specialized libraries for arts, multimedia and audiovisual materials, the visually impaired, children, the young, and rare books and special collections. A center for the internet and its archive. 3 museums for antiquities, manuscripts, and the history of science. A planetarium. An exploratorium for children's exposure to science. Culturama, a cultural panorama over 9 screens, the first ever patented 9-projector interactive system. Vista, the virtual immersive science and technology applications Vista system, is an interactive virtual reality environment for researchers. 8 permanent exhibitions covering Impressions of Alexandria, the Awad Collection. The World of Shadi Abd al-Salam, Arabic Calligraphy, the History of Egyptian Printing, The Artist's Book, Arab Muslim Medieval Instruments of Astronomy and Science, Muhyiddin Hussein, A Creative Journey, and the Folkloric Art Collection of Ra'aya Nimr and Mahmoud Abu Alim, and more are being planned every day. 4 art galleries for temporary exhibitions. A conference center for thousands of persons. 7 academic research centers covering manuscripts, documentation of heritage, calligraphy and writing, information sciences, Alexandrian and Mediterranean studies, arts, and scientific research. The Dialogue Forum organizes bi-weekly discussions which encourage rationality, a civil discourse, and openness to the other. Indeed, the institution must stand for certain values. It was recognized as such when it organized the Freedom of Expression conferences and hosted the Beacon for Freedom database.
اعتدنا في مثل هذه اللقاءات ان هيبقى لنا مناقشات ومشاورات كثيرة جدا.
It organized the first Arab Reform Conference organized under the President's auspices, which produced the Alexandria Declaration and the ongoing Arab Reform Forum. Subsequent meetings and publications all deepen our understanding of the fundamental values of our time, promoting the involvement of civil society. In addition, the Arab Info Mall was created to strengthen the network of Arab civil society organizations, promoting exchange of information and discussion. The library also has the privilege to host the Institute of Peace Studies of the Suzanne Mubarak Women's International Peace Movement, the first such institution in this part of the world. The IPS is giving, through research and training, substance and meaning to the concepts of the culture of peace. Despite its youth, our institution is already making an impact in many different domains. It is indeed recapturing the spirit of the ancient library of Alexandria. It is a place of freedom, a meeting place for the dialogue between peoples and cultures. It is a place dedicated to upholding the values of rationality, learning, pluralism and understanding. Like its illustrious predecessor, it is dedicated to advancing universal knowledge, not a single specialty. It is addressing research and applying advanced techniques to everything, from the visual arts to the informatics revolution, from the documentation of heritage to the promotion of peace. It is a university without walls or registration, without formal certificates or structured courses. It is open to all those who seek knowledge in all its aspects and manifestations, all those who love art in all its wondrous expressions, all those who thirst after a better understanding of their heritage or of the world, all those who dream of pushing the frontiers of scientific knowledge to wherever human ingenuity will take it. Today, some 1,800 very young and gender-balanced staff and managers are making this vast complex of interlocking organizations hum with life. Receiving more than 1 million visitors a year and holding no less than 500 events per year, from annual book fairs to exhibitions, from conferences and seminars to concerts, theatre and operas. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina has become the meeting place for Nobel laureates, eminent figures, great intellectuals and talented artists. The vast main library has gone from receiving its first book to over 500,000 volumes and provides over 25,000 journals to its visitors, as well as extensive e-resources. The library sector also provides special training for librarians. There are special libraries for children and youth. Programs introduce the young to the hybrid world of the electronic and printed word, and to take that to the schools through the book mobile. Special resources are deployed for the Taha Hussein Library for the visually impaired, and the special libraries for multimedia and arts, rare books and microforms. Unique features of the resources of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina include the Internet Archive, a unique repository established in California, and which the Bibliotheca is proud to maintain the complete backup copy. It is maintained in mass storage devices known as the PetaBox, and includes over 50 billion pages of materials. The Virtual Immersive Science and Technology Applications VISTA system is an interactive virtual reality environment allowing researchers to transform two-dimensional data sets into 3D simulations and to step inside them. A practical tool of visualization during research, VISTA helps researchers to simulate the behavior of natural or human-engineered systems, instead of merely observing a system or building a physical model. The Culturama, developed by CultNat, winner of many awards, is now patented. It allows the presentation of a wealth of data layers, where the presenter can click on an item and go to a new level of detail. It is a remarkably informative and attractive multimedia presentation of Egypt's heritage through 5,000 years of history to these modern times, with highlights and examples of ancient Egyptian and Coptic and Muslim heritage. The Culturama has been installed in Luxor and is being installed in several other locations as well. It has also been the vehicle to present the only ever Pharaonic language opera. Beyond the Culturama, CultNat has also developed the award-winning website Eternal Egypt and has documented the musical heritage of Egypt, as well as folklore and wildlife, and it anchors an ongoing effort to create the General Egyptian Museum, GEM, a virtual presentation of the ancient Egyptian antiquities in many museums around the world. CultNat also collaborated with the Antiquities Museum of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina for the complete digital guide for the magnificent collection donated by the various museums under the auspices of the Ministry of Culture and the Supreme Council for Antiquities. The museum also organizes its own educational program for youth. The Manuscript Center has an outstanding restoration lab and produces excellent monographs and catalogues, as well as digital collections that researchers can take to study at their leisure. Learned conferences for scholars complement exhibits for casual visitors. The Manuscript Museum displays some of the most beautiful pieces of the Kiswa al-Kaaba ever seen. And to the delight of visitors, we also have virtual browsers that allow visitors to turn the pages of rare manuscripts and see them translated before their eyes. The new Library of Alexandria also studies the nature of scripts and writing and calligraphy. Its specialized center researches all scripts, not just the beauty of Arabic calligraphy, shown here in the beautiful works of Muhammad and Kamil Ibrahim. Scholarly works include translations such as the award-winning History of Writing and original material like Abgadiyat. The library is also devoted to the city of Alexandria and its special links to the Mediterranean. Through its AlexMed Center, we document the past, including the beautiful Awad collection, and even recreate it, as in this 3D visualization of the Pharos and how it collapsed. The historic mosques and hammams of the Turkish city were documented, and we produced the first tourist itineraries, maps and atlas, as well as many studies for the development of the city. The planetarium, combined with the Alexploratorium and the History of Science Museum, constitutes a complex dedicated to encouraging the young from 6 to 22 years of age to learn the joys of discovery and the excitement of the scientific enterprise. The planetarium exposes films, and the Alexploratorium has regular daily programs and will start to do some of these in Cairo as well. It works with teachers and the ministry through LAMAP and is helping to establish science clubs. Notable events include the annual recreation of the experiment by which Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth, and a special institute to study the eclipse of 2006, as well as the celebration of the centennial of Einstein's miraculous year. Science is also present in much of the activities of the CSSP. CSSP, which organizes the biannual BioVision Alexandria. CSSP also provides research grants to allow the participation of young Egyptian scientists with colleagues abroad, as well as organizing major international events like the meetings of IAU, TWAS and IAP-IAC. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina is also mediating a special international project for the study of the genetic roots of heart disease, with a central lab that connects researchers in Egypt with those in Oxford, London and Florence. It is the forerunner of things to come. From the start, the ambition of being a leading institution of the digital age meant more than just applying ICT to our regular work, important though that may be. We have the only copy of the Internet Archive, a record of all the public pages on the World Wide Web. In 2004, we produced the first all-digital DVD of the Description de l'Égypte, which is now online. With our digital lab, we became a partner in the Million Book Project, digitizing books with a special expertise on the Arabic language. We obtained the second prototype of the Espresso book machine to help pioneer a new business model for publishing that will make available the many titles that are currently out of print but under copyright, provide instant publishing and protect the rights of authors and publishers. In May 2005, before we were 3 years old, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina was admitted as a full strategic partner in the Digital Library Federation. In April 2007, the Library of Congress signed an agreement to collaborate with the Bibliotheca Alexandrina in designing the World Digital Library Central Hub and to maintain in Alexandria the backup copy of the materials. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina pioneered many digital projects, including what we are happy to unveil today, the digital history of modern Egypt. This enormous work involves putting text, image, video, music, and old manuscripts together into an interconnected whole, covering the period from Muhammad Ali to Anwar Sadat, from the Description de l'Égypte to the archives of Nasser and the Sadat archive.
لواء طيار محمد حسني مبارك قائد القوات الجوية.
النائب حسني كان قائد القوات الجوية. بيحترموه قوي في إسرائيل حقيقة يعني لأنه الدرس كان موجع.
Covering the Suez Canal, the Misra Bank, eminent political and social and literary figures that crafted the history of modern Egypt. But the Bibliotheca Alexandrina is also about art. From the inauguration in 2002 to the training of talented youth in music and the plastic arts, the composition of the first Egyptian opera in 40 years, based on Naguib Mahfouz's Miramar. Art is everywhere in our institution. In just 5 years, the dream has become reality, teeming with life. And the doors to a brilliant future are opening. In 5 years, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina has already made a major contribution to bringing to life the cosmopolitanism of Alexandria, which was celebrated in the centenary of the birth of the cinema in 1907, with earlier efforts by the brothers Lumière. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina, where we honor the past, celebrate the present and invent the future. It is indeed Mubarak's gift to Egypt and Egypt's gift to the world.
Thank you all, and it's really amazing what a group of very young Egyptians have been able to achieve in 5 years. I hope you'll take the time to see it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we start the formal part of our program, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, my good friend Philippe de Marisco, who is the chairman of the World Life Sciences Forum, BioVision, in Lyon, France. It is there that the idea of BioVision originated in 1999, and we are very proud to be partners with BioVision in Lyon. So the chairman of BioVision, Philippe de Marisco.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear Ismail, it is of course my great pleasure to participate to this edition of BioVision Alexandria, and I will try my best to contribute to move from promise to practice. It is now clear and widely accepted in the early 21st century that many factors are challenging dramatically our most basic models and notions of economics, society, international relations, as well as our way of life. Whether it is globalization that affects every sector of activity in every country, our population, which continues to grow and is increasingly concentrated in sprawling megacities, creating a wide range of problems, or climate change, or the finite amount of natural resources, energy, water, raw materials, land, and so on, which will no longer meet our growing needs, or the rising insecurity made worse by fanaticism, desperation, and alarmingly efficient and accessible means of destruction. In front of that, thankfully, new concepts, proven innovations, and successful experience give us hope that we can overcome these obstacles. As an example, new opportunities at the interface of science and technology will allow us to roll out new, more efficient, and more affordable solutions. As an example, at the interface of neuroscience and information technology, new tools using artificial intelligence will facilitate the development of the innovations we need in the future. Also, successful cooperation between the public and private sector, between national, international, and non-governmental organizations, open up possibilities for new and more efficient ways of working together. Growing levels of funding contributed by individuals and foundations, which sometimes exceed the existing resources of countries, or of international organizations bring with them a demand for rigor and a methodology in the utilization of their contribution, thereby ensuring greater efficiency for all. Also, the emergence of a new market at the bottom of the pyramid not only makes it possible for the 4 billion people living on less than $2 per day to benefit from a better quality of life, to regain hope, and to gradually enter a virtuous economic circle, it also makes us aware that certain affordable solutions imagined for and by the people at the bottom of the pyramid could create new possibilities for a different approach in developed countries. Take, for example, a cataract treatment developed in India by a company named Arabi for less than $50, providing perfectly good condition and results. This innovation should be transferable to a certain degree to developed countries where prices are currently 50 times higher. Also, there are many successful initiatives aiming to reduce, recycle, and reuse products which help to significantly lower the consumption of raw materials and to make better use of natural resources. In order to capitalize on these emerging opportunities and to build new foundations for our world based on a more responsible social, economic, and ecological approach, we must accept and rigorously apply 3 key principles. First principle, ensure that scientific and technological development genuinely serve humankind and the environment in the context of those new constraints. This requires establishing a dialogue with all stakeholders. This will require to give priority to efforts and investment focus on the most critical challenge, to take into account all cultural sensitivities and ensure a rigorous ethical analysis when choosing priorities. This requires to explain to people the expected benefits of progress and reassure them that the risks are known and controlled, thereby avoiding the hostile public opinion, and we have seen what could occur in that case in countries of Europe. And finally, implement these technological changes within a regulatory framework and with the most strict and wide-ranging controls possible. Second principle, encourage the involvement of all people in the change process, not only because everyone is directly concerned, but also because everyone can make an inventive contribution. In this way, we can help eliminate poverty, exclusion, and ignorance, which is our best weapon in the fight against insecurity. Third principle, build and organize a more active solidarity, be it between developed and emerging countries, through bilateral cooperation, be it between different communities involved, the scientific, the industrial, the society, be it intergenerational, by involving young people as early as possible, like it was done here at the library, and involve them in the decision and in the action that will affect their own lives in the future. This is the approach, and these are the principles which must guide BioVision here in Alexandria. The life science will play an especially important role in providing the progress we will need to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Thanks to the initiative of Ismail Selgadin, we find gathered here today representatives of all the stakeholders, communities, and a large number of countries from both the northern and the southern hemisphere. All of them are men and women of goodwill. In this magical place, Alexandria, a city with a rich heritage at the heart of the great Mediterranean civilizations, we cannot help but feel part of this human history in motion. This is the time and place to understand our responsibility to future generations, to give a more universal dimension to our decisions and actions, and to work better together in building a generous and genuinely effective solidarity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philippe Maestro. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to introduce a person who I have the honor to call a friend, a person whom I admire, Mr. Koji Omi, founder and chairman of the Science Technology for Society Forum, member of the House of Representatives, and former Minister of Finance of Japan. Mr. Koji Omi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me thank our host, Dr. Sarah Gardin, for inviting me here today. It is a great honor to address the opening ceremony of BioVision Alexandria 2008. I'd like to speak about the potential for biotechnology and cooperation with developing countries in this area. I was appointed Minister of State for Science and Technology Policy in 2001 under the Koizumi Cabinet, and was Minister of Finance in 2006 under the Abe Cabinet. I served as Chairman of Parliamentary Members Group for the promotion of life sciences within the ruling Democratic Party, and am the founder and chairman of the Science and Technology in Society Forum, also known as the STS Forum. The progress of biotechnology in recent years has been astounding. Biotechnology can be applied in many areas such as healthcare, food and agriculture, the environment, and energy. Given its impact on daily life, biotechnology should be used to address the problems and improve the quality of life of people in developing countries. How should the benefit of biotechnology be spread to society? It is true that while new technologies are developed and used mainly in developed countries, in the science and technology field, little progress has been made in narrowing the gap between developed and developing countries. To change this situation, Japan and other developed countries should actively promote joint research and cooperate with developing countries in this area. Research capacities in developing countries should also be enhanced by research cooperation with developed countries, a recommendation that was made by the STS Forum. I'd also like to talk about food issues. We often hear concerns about the safety of biotechnology, particularly as regards genetic engineering. These include the health-related safety of genetically modified food products and the impact on the environment of using GMOs in open systems. There is no doubt that we must pay attention to these safety issues. At the same time, agricultural applications of GMOs can make it possible to grow high-yield crops in arid climates, while ensuring sufficient food supplies is the most important issue for developing countries. Therefore, I think it is time to consider using GMOs more positively, taking the utmost care to ensure safety. Another important contribution of science and technology is its use in managing infectious diseases. While it is necessary to make and provide medicine for patients, it is also essential to develop effective vaccines to conquer infectious diseases. AIDS is a typical infectious disease which requires such management. Vaccines for AIDS are under development now, but it appears difficult to develop such vaccines commercially. I believe that such field as AIDS vaccine development requires the strong commitment of the public sector. In this context, the activity of International AIDS Vaccine Initiative, or IAVI, an American NPO, is a step in the right direction. IAVI is now planning to conduct a clinical trial in Africa for a new AIDS vaccine created using Japanese technology. The Japanese government is considering supporting IAVI's activities for developing this vaccine under the ODA scheme. This type has been actively discussed within the Japanese government, and this initiative may be announced at the post-Tokyo International Conference in African Development, TICAD-4, which will be held in Japan next month from May 28 to 30. To sum up my basic idea on desirable cooperation between developed and developing countries in the field of science and technology, joint research in developing countries should be encouraged with the participation of researchers and scientists from developed countries. A portion of ODA should be used for this activity to harness the human potential of developing countries in addition to the financial power of developed countries. This idea has been discussed in the SDS Forum, particularly at the fourth annual meeting in October 2007. Biotechnology is very important with the framework of research cooperation between developed and developing countries, and I would like to invite experts in this field to take part in the SDS Forum, which will be held in Kyoto from October 5 to 7 this year. Japan is exploring ways of cooperating with developing countries in the field of science and technology for improving quality of life in developing countries. As the chair of G8 Summit, the Japanese government has identified the development of Africa as key issue. I must point out that in the field of biotechnology, pharmaceutical companies should be involved in developing new medicines, while the protection of their intellectual property rights must be guaranteed. In this context, the public sector should play a larger role. Biovision Alexandria 2008 is, I believe, a conference of great significance and valuable platform for deep discussion under the theme of From Promise to Practice. I hope that Japan will present its policy on this issue at TICAD 4 also. Thank you very much.
thank you, Omi Sensei, for this sharing of thoughts about biotechnology. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a participation via the Marvels of Contemporary Science. Mr. Yanis Potočnik, European Commissioner for Science and Research of the European Commission, is sending a message to this meeting.
Greetings from Brussels. Some years ago, I had the privilege to visit the Alexandrina Library. I remember vividly the impression I felt when entering the building and the words which spontaneously come to my mind: grandeur, humanity, openness, and knowledge. All of them with capital letters. Why grandeur? Because the Alexandrina Library is simply magnificent, not only because it is an architectural tour de force with its striking dimensions, but first and foremost because it revives the brilliance of the earlier center of study and scholarship it represented. Why humanity and openness? Because the Alexandrina Library is a true international project, built up by and for scholars from all over the world. This would not be enough to list all its manuscripts and books, their authors, editors, and provenance. You are here today in what can be called, without exaggeration, a world treasure. Why then knowledge? Because the great man, Alexander, building on an even greater culture, established this place as a repository for all the knowledge mankind has accumulated. If the ancient library of Alexandria has exercised such a hold on man's imagination down the ages, it is because of its unique representative value and because it has always been associated with the quest for knowledge as a collaborative process. The books may have gone, some of the invaluable knowledge been lost, but from my last visit to this great library, I know that the past is not dead and buried. In fact, it is not even past. And I know that coming from around the world to this place of genius, you can advance our knowledge and build the future. I'm sorry that this is the second time I have to send you my greetings through the air. I sincerely hope that next time I will be able to contradict the popular proverb, never two without three, and join you in person. This message is not about biotechnologies like the last one, but I hope it will serve as a source of inspiration for your vision, also with a capital letter. I wish BioVision Alexandria every success.
We must reaffirm that we are very grateful to Mr. Potočnik and to the European Union, for we have very special ties with the European Union. There is something called EAGLES, which is the European Action for Global Life Sciences, which I'm very proud to be associated with, and many members of whom are here, half of whom are European, half of whom are from the developing countries, and we work to bring the expertise of Europe in the life sciences to tackle the problems of the world, and there will be a special track for EAGLES in these events. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me very great pleasure to introduce a good friend and a great man, the Egyptian Minister of Education, Dr. Yusri Al-Gamal, who will deliver the message on behalf of the Egyptian government. معالي الأستاذ الدكتور يسري الجمل وزير التربية والتعليم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Excellencies, distinguished scientists, researchers, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Egyptian government, of Egypt and the Prime Minister, Dr. Ahmed Nazif, to welcome you all to the Library of Alexandria, a venue that proved to be a remarkable place for dialogue, learning, and understanding between cultures and peoples, as well as a center for the production and dissemination of knowledge. This gathering today of eminent scientists and distinguished researchers, representatives of civil society, and other stakeholders is a symbol of hope to our young generations, a symbol of hope for enough food, good health, and better environment through the use of biotechnology and life sciences. A hope that was clearly expressed by the choice of the theme of Biovision Alexandrina 208 as from promises to practice. This is exactly what our people is expecting. Translating immense advances that are taking place in science to noticeable improvements in the lives of the poor and the needy. Ladies and gentlemen, the strong political commitment of Egypt that was clearly expressed by President Mubarak towards the promotion of the knowledge triangle of education, research, and innovation has also moved to practice. Last year, the Higher Council of Science and Technology was established to promote the use of science and technology in problem solving. The Science and Technology Development Fund was also established to provide adequate funds to research projects on a competitive basis. An initiative for the integration of researchers was launched to make the best use of able human resources and care for their capacity development. A lot of effort is also put to promote international cooperation with different countries, with a special emphasis on focused applied research through centers of excellence, keeping in mind that the demand-driven research and innovation is our way forward, counting all the time on your partnership and support. Dr. Ismail Serageddine, I'd like to thank you very much and your young colleagues and assistants for the wonderful job that you have done here to the Library of Alexandria. To all of the participants, wishing you fruitful conference and pleasant stay in the beautiful city of Alexandria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf Gamal. Ladies and gentlemen, I was scheduled at this moment to deliver a keynote address. That keynote address would have taken a little over half an hour, and we're running a bit late, so I'm proposing that we shall move that to tomorrow in order not to delay too many of our activities. But I do want to share with you a few thoughts. The topic we have picked, the theme we have picked, from promises to practice, is designed to highlight a fundamental problem that we feel in the South. in the developing world. That the promises of science are mostly going to add to those who already have so much, and not enough is going to address the problems of the poor. In addition, we are alarmed to see that the global environmental problems will impact on everybody equally, and that in many ways the poorest countries are those who are least equipped to cope with the impact of climate change, including greater cycles of rain and drought, shorter growing seasons, increases in infectious diseases, and other phenomena. We are worried that the world's appetite for fuel and energy is leading to burning the very food that we want and need. The most basic of all human rights, food, is now increasing globally in terms of price and going beyond the reach of the world's poor. We ask, what can science do to help us? What can wise policies do to help us? And I say wise because we talk a lot about living in the third global revolution, in the information age, in the knowledge society. And it's true, data when organized becomes information, information when explained becomes knowledge. But what we need is little more than knowledge. We need wisdom. Wisdom to craft sound policies that will ensure that the benefits of that knowledge, that science, is shared with all. That the human family is taken out of its misery, and that the poverty of one and the deprivation of the human rights of one, whether it be the civil and political rights of free expression or the fundamental rights of a sound food, clean air, clean water, fertile soils, and a healthy lifestyle. If they are deprived of that, then we are all, as a human family, deprived, as we start on our third millennium of the common era. And thus we hope that in much of what we will do in the coming few days, we will try to reach across the divide that divides us, shake hands and work together, create partnerships that will enable us not only to strengthen the science in the developing countries themselves, but also to build bridges of collaboration and cooperation. And I leave you with three major challenges. The first of these is food. It is no secret that there have been riots in Mexico, there are riots elsewhere, that there has been tension in Egypt about rising food prices. The government's ability to meet that by ever-increasing subsidies is limited. The challenge is great and it stands before us. And why is that? For a number of reasons, including improvements in diet that are caused by higher incomes in many parts of the world, most notably, of course, in China, large population, huge increase in income, resulting in demands for proteins. So food, feed, and now fuel are all competing for the same land and the same water. A challenge to all of us. How do we manage that difficult equation? Secondly, in what I would like to term public health and private medicine. We are making major advances in private medicine, in the most sophisticated techniques for medical treatment. But at the same time, many of the fundamentals of public health have had to await the generosity of private philanthropists, such as the Gates Foundation, to launch the Gates Scientific Challenge for dealing with the scientific challenges of health in the developing countries. the famous Barnes Commission. Harold Barnes was with us a few years ago. And we in the developing world, as we look at the challenges we have to cope with an expanding population, where we expect 2 to 2.5 billion people to be added, every single one in the developing countries. When we look at the scourge of AIDS, especially in Africa and South Asia, when we look at the burden of malaria, when we look at the problems of reaching all the unreached and including all the excluded, it is a very big challenge indeed. It is a public health challenge. But does science help us in improving public health and in backing the policies that are required? And how do we do this? The third part, of course, is climate change. This is the biggest challenge that faces all of humanity. And we are all on this planet together. And whatever shall be done, we have to do together. And whatever benefits will accrue to all humanity. And whatever costs shall be borne by the entire human family. There is no escape from our ecosystem. We're talking about our global ecosystem. And we're very proud to have with us Jerry Rowland, whose work on explaining the ozone layer won him a Nobel Prize many years ago when people doubted how could the CFC molecules destroy the ozone layer the way they did. And he will tell us also the views of science about this enormous challenge that we face, which challenges food production, challenges health, challenges everything we do. The fourth area is how do we ensure that we strengthen science in the developing world. Many of the people attending are young, budding scientists from Egypt, young students. We want to give them an avenue to open the doors, to stretch the road before them so that they can create the scientific base we need. We will talk about new techniques, such as the Science Super Course, which is intended to enable people to reach out and have the best of science in the classrooms and everywhere, freely accessible through the internet. Already, the Super Course team and the Library of Alexandria work on that and provide this material for free on the internet. And I'm happy to note that I just did a count yesterday because I had our board meeting. Our websites are visited more than 200 million hits a year in the Library of Alexandria. And of those, we have about 8 million on just the health super course. We want now to expand that to all of science, not just health and epidemiology. It's 10% of the global hits on that course here from Alexandria, so we shall pursue that as well. But there are other ways in which we want to build those bridges, and we hope that with the distinguished scientists we have here today, we will be able to make the connections. For much of what happens in a conference like this is not just in the lectures and the presentations, but it's in the coffee breaks and in the meetings and in the corridors where people get acquainted and exchange cards and decide to stay in contact. And especially, if I may say to many of our distinguished visitors, do not underestimate the magic that such eminent scientists like yourselves bring. When you meet young students, that moment can be a turning point in the life of one or another. That moment can be an inspiration for one or another. It was, after all, for Bill Clinton, a brief moment with a handshake with Jack Kennedy when he was just a high school student that decided him on a career in politics. It is a moment, I'm sure, that Jack Kennedy didn't think twice about. And yet the impact it can have can be different and can be inspiring. So I hope that you will be generous with your time, with our young students, tolerant of their questions, and thinking at the back of your mind that you are inspiring a whole generation of young Egyptian scientists to build the kind of base that the Library of Alexandria is here to serve. And so, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I would like to invite you to give a little time to those coffee breaks, but to ensure that we come back in time to listen to our very, very distinguished speakers who will start here in exactly 30 minutes. Coffee is served outside. We reconvene in 30 minutes here to hear the first of our Nobel panels. Thank you each and every one.